back to another exciting lesson on how to animate in TVPaint Animation. Today I thought I would just go ahead and show you a little bit of a process I do when I animate in TVPaint Animation. So I decided just to try out this, trying an intro screen, splash screen for my website and my YouTube videos. So what I was thinking about with the direction here is just having this guy coming in, and it's more dynamic, and he would be coming in and he punches the screen, and the screen would like either shatter or something, and the my logo would pop up here. So what I did is I just drew a basic frame for the guy. It's just a rough, and then I'm going to continue on to draw him. As you can see, I just start out with basic shapes, which I urge all animators, either experienced or novice. And see, we have him, he's leaning back. We're going to try to have him, he's going to come forward, and he's going to start leaning forward, and then he's going to punch the screen. So his chest is actually going to revolve a little bit, so we can take and start revolving his chest, and this could be a center line, and his abs here, and then his shoulder is going to come out. It's back here in the previous screen, and we can have him come out, and the fist can come out slightly, because eventually this fist is just going to, because of the perspective, it's just going to come closer and closer to the screen. So I'm just going to draw on the rough of the fist, and then we have this fist here, which this side, to counterbalance the weight of the body, we're just going to go ahead and drop this. The fist is going to start dropping down, so we're just going to start dropping this down. His elbow's going to go back a little bit. And the mass of his head. And I'm just going to be roughing this out in this video, and then we're going to continue on. I can continue on cleaning it up and doing some more videos regarding this animation. And as you can see, that the center line right here is kind of like where his body is pivoting on, as you can see. So the pec right here, the pectoral muscle, is going to stay in this one place, and the rest of his body is going to kind of rotate around this area right here. So we're just going to bring this forward, because his body has to come around, and bring his arm, his shoulder forward, and then his hand is going up a little bit, but it's also growing in size, because as it gets closer to the screen, you'll see it easier. And then we're going to foreshorten it here with his elbow, and again we're going to drop this down a little bit, so the angle of his fist changes slightly, and again that widens, but it shortens up at the bottom. muscle here is going to start disappearing because his chest and his rib cage is starting to turn towards us. And then the center line, and then his abdomen area. Again, these are just rough lines. You could change them out when we do the final. Okay, and now we're gonna, and you see, and even though I have the light table on here, you'll see there's no image for my light table. As you can see, I do have it active though for the previous frame. We can activate it here and do 2 frames behind, so that way every time. Or you could just leave it off. And then what I do is I just make a mark on the paper or the stage, and automatically shows the previous drawing. Okay, and we're just going to use that previous drawing guide. We can go back and clean that up. So that's going to be the center line. And his head's not going to move too much, so I'm not going to try to drastically change it too much. And so he's going to be facing, and his arm is actually what's coming up. His shoulder's going to be coming up because he's going to be bringing his arm up to extend it, so when he punches the screen. Now you can see a little bit more of his arm and his bicep. This other arm's going to start turning in. So his pectoral muscle is going to stay right there, and then this is going to start turning in, and the front side of his stomach's going to be here, and then his fist and his arm on the left side is going to get narrower and narrower. But it's also going to get smaller because it's going away from us. So to do this, all I'm going to do is do a freehand select. I'm just going to select around his hand because I actually want it to grow smaller. And then I'm just going to transform it. We're going to shrink it down a little bit. And then we just go down to the bottom, hit apply, and then go back to our drawing tool. And you still have the selected, so we just go over select and clear selection. So now it's selected or deselected, so we just clean it up a little bit because now it's smaller. And it's a really quick way to get it to start making changes. As you can see, it's starting to come around. The only thing that I'm concerned about is his chest muscles. They're a little bit small because this guy is pretty built. So I'm just going to go up here. I'm going to select his chest muscles. Plus, it looks like they drop down too much, and he's got too much neck. So I'm just going to take this and upsize him a little bit. Supersize pecs. And then we just hit apply. And then again, switch over your pencil tool, your stroke tool, and then clear selection. So it's clears that selection. So again, we just scrub through our frames. Just like this. See how he turns? And he's coming, his right fist is coming right towards the screen. Just like that. And we're going to continue on. So we just go ahead and tap the screen again. And again, remember we're keeping right on this pivot point right here. And we want to make sure that, and then I'm going to start drawing his head a little bit bigger, because since his body is coming towards the screen, it's not going to increase in size as much as the hand is, but it's going to start increasing the size because he's turning with his body leaning towards the camera. So we're going to take and grow his pecs a little bit bigger this time, just like this. We're going to keep in the same rough shape of the circle, as you can see, and again, you can see I'm just keeping this rough just to get the layout of what's happening. So we can, just do a rough layout, and then we can go back and clean it up. And see, he's still leaning a little bit to the left, and then we're gonna bring because his rib cage is right here, abdomen's right here, and we're gonna make his shoulder a little bit bigger because his arm's coming towards us. This, and it's actually traveling since it's traveling towards us, it's going to start arcing up a little bit. So I'm going to take, what I'm going to do is just draw his fist again. And this is a good way of what they call superimposition. That is a good way to keep things the same size and the same mass. What I do is I go ahead and draw the previous frame, and then I take the selection tool and I select it, and then I take and expand it, and then you can rotate it because his fist is going to rotate as it comes out, and then you place it right here, and we hit apply. And see, I'm trying to time it out. They say usually for regular action it's a 20% change in your drawings. It's kind of hard to determine what exactly it is 20%, but it's enough of a change so you can notice that there is a difference basically. So his arm's coming out, so it's going to actually go up into, since it's extending, it's going to go up into his into the arm here. So we're going to take and erase this and go back to our drawing pen. Make sure we got the line here. Oops. You can just undo. I just want to keep. And his shoulder will become more pronounced on this side because once his hand draws behind his shoulder, you'll see more of his shoulder than you will his arm. And actually I want to move this down a little back because it looks like it might work better. So again, I just go ahead and select it, and I just move it down a little bit. Yeah, it looks a lot better there. So we apply it, go back to the stroke tool and clear the selection, and we just clean it up. So again, his shoulder is going to start becoming more pronounced, and his fist and the rest of his arm is going back, and then we have his biceps. Okay, so we can again scrub this and see what it looks like. He's about to hit the screen. He's like, doof, doof. And it's good to make sound effects too as you do this, so that way it's, it gets you into the feeling or into the emotion of what's happening. And see, I love his body type here in the first frame and in the second, and I'm going to carry that style. I'm just trying to, like I said, rough it out, do it really quickly. And it's really good to know your anatomy and know what you're doing when you're creating animation. And practicing is always a good thing. Practice, practice, practice. I keep saying that every time I make a video, but it's true. You keep practicing, make you a really good animator. So his shoulder is coming up like this, and his arm's coming out, and he's bending more towards here, and this one's getting a little shorter because we're pivoting. So his biceps coming around, and his head will follow suit. So we're going to go like this, and I'm going to draw it so his face is going to start coming down, and then his arm's going to go back like this. So this part's going to go back further, is to do things faster, like a faster workflow, so that way when you're animating you can get your ideas out really fast, get them down, and then you can work out the details later. So I'm just going to go ahead and move this down, rotate it, because his fist is going to come down like right here, you know, as he punches. So you got to keep that in mind as his fist comes down and travels. It's going to rotate. And we just hit apply, go back to our stroke tool, clear the selection, and then we go back to drawing. And so we're going to see more of his bicep as his hand goes further and further away. Okay. And since his abdomen is going to be right here, and now he's turning in, so the rib cage on this side is going to start bulging out. Then this is going to start bulging because he's bending at the middle still, and he's bringing, this is going to be his side. So we're going to start seeing his deltoid on this side. And these are just excellent markers for people with anatomy, is to be able to show these different muscles so that people can say, yeah, I recognize that. That's where it belongs. You know, it's kind of like topology for anatomy. So his stomach muscles come over on this way, and it comes down, and this is his side right here, and his head came down. And again, as you can see, we're just roughing this out. And this is where his muscles, his deltoid muscle is, or used to be. And so we got his rib cage, his deltoid on this side, his pecs, his shoulders, and his fist is going to be his knuckles. And as you can see, as it's turning away, it's bulging right here because he's bending over, and we're still keeping within the center line of pivot here. So we'll just go ahead and mark that just so we can keep it going through the whole animation. So now we scrub it again, see how it looks. Okay, he's getting ready about to punch, and then we're going to have him hit the screen almost. So we're just going to draw his hand here again, and we're just going to make it more pronounced because it's going to be like really impactful. And what I'm going to do is I draw his hand first because this is the center focus object for our animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and increase this, and I'm going to rotate it a little bit. But you see it's kind of like out of proportion. His thumb should be underneath a little bit more. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply, and then what we could do is we could simply hit the select again, select his thumb, and move his thumb underneath, just like that, and hit apply, hit that again, deselect, and now his thumb is, we can make it also a little more pronounced here. So here it's coming forward. His muscles have the back end muscle, the biceps and your forearm muscles are all behind the hand, and that's what they call foreshortening. But his shoulder is coming out here like this, and his pecs are going to move down this way, and they're going to get shorter and shorter. So his one pec on this side is going to be right there, and this one just shrinks more. And then this shoulder here starts disappearing behind the pec, and then the muscle for the forearm comes down because his hand's going to drop here. So we're just going to draw his hand really quickly, just like that. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is do the whole technique again, just take and reposition it. Again, it's really good technique to keep your size and mass. And as I said, remember we're going to drop it down. So we're there, and we're just hit apply. And we go back to our stroke tool, deselect, and here we got his hand here, and we can just clean this up a little bit, kind of like add a little bit of the forearm there, add a little bit of the muscle. But remember, he's bending over still a little bit because he's turning. So we're going to pronounce it heavily on this side that he's kind of because he's stepping into it. And that's his neck. And we're going to drop his head just a little bit because, like I said, he's leaning towards us. And you can do this either every one or two frames. And you can always go back and just use your selection tool and readjust these if it's not like, where you want it. You can readjust them. And so he's going to bring his eyes down a little bit, like he's like mad. He's going to tuck his chin in. And then in our next picture, our next shot frame, he's going to be punching the screen. So again, we scrub a little bit, and just like this, and now he's going to be punching the screen. So what we want to do is, because this is our focus point. Every time you have a focus point, you want to make sure that you draw the most detail on it, because that is what the viewer goes to see first, is the detail. Okay, so this is his hand, just like that. And then what we can do is, because we haven't drawn anything else, instead of just having to select it, we can just go ahead and use the reposition tool. And then remember, we're going to rotate it because it's coming right at the screen. And his shoulder is going to be right about here, and the rest of his arm, so it's really in a good position right there. And I want to make sure that I kind of want to drop it down a little bit just so I can see his eyes, because then the next focal point for him will be his eyes. So we go back to the draw tool and we make sure that his body is turned into the camera, just like that. And again, remember, that's his center line. So he's kind of all the way extended across. His rib cage comes down here. His pecs come up here, and his hand kind of disappears a little bit. Like that. Again, that was just a rough. This is his rib cage muscles. And then we'll draw the head around it. Remember, it drops a little bit. Then we bring the eye down, and then right here, because his eyes are going to be right like this. That's going to be his eyes, and it's going to show anger, or a reason why he's punching. So, and we kept it around the center line here of action. So again, we just scrub through and we see what it looks like. And the reason why there's such a jump at the end is because as in animation, we have the slow in and the slow out. We have, and there's a slow here. It starts slow, but then it picks up speed, and the less frames you have, the more impact it has. So we're just gonna, right here, I'm gonna create a new layer, and we're just gonna name this FX, which I'm gonna use for glass shattering or whatever is gonna be on there. Maybe he'll stamp. He'll have the P2 Studios here on a knuckle ring, or a hand, one of those brass knuckles. You could do whatever you want. And then, so there's going to be, oops, I just forgot that was should be tracing the outline of the head on that. Okay, so we're just going to take and start right from here, midpoint, and just draw some jagged lines like this. And it's like glass breaking. Okay. And then we can go one more, and we can add, what we could do is we could carry the last frame, 4 frames. See, I pulled it out. And then since we can activate the light table for this frame, and since cracking glass is really fast, we're going to bracket. It's going to speed up and make new cracks. If you want to carry out the other cracks you had, just carry them out further. You know, you can start splintering them. And so that's basically a rough. See, it hits the screen. We're going to do the crack glass one more time. Let's take it out a little bit further. Shows that it's like stressing really bad. It's forming new cracks. That way it shows that the cracks are growing. Because it's kind of like a tree growing, or if you animate grass growing, you know, or rain or blood, or you know, it shows a progression of movement. So this is what it looks like. Crash right in the screen. And if you want, you can even in these frames to give his body, you can turn his head down even a little bit more and bring his fist out a little bit more if you want, just subtly, so you can do an ease in effect. So I'm just going to go ahead and stop this here, and then my next video will continue to refine this and show you a little bit more about the process. But so far it's looking good. And just like I said, in order to become a better animator, just keep practicing. And also a good way to learn these tools, learn these different elements within TVPaint, is to keep using different ones for different projects. Set up different elements that you want to use in your projects, and it'll all start coming together and you'll master it. So until next time, keep animating and keep practicing. Thank you.